Karen jumps up and down when she gets excited. I jump in the wrong place when I get excited. They're so good. I recently overheard someone say, "I can't be a racist. I am a Unitarian." As if belonging to a certain group functioned as a magical protective amulet. In a way, this is a true statement. The truth is that when you look at the unhinged sadism, the rampant right to carry racism, no, we are not racist. Yes, the tree of racism is over there, heavy laden with its strange fruit. But the roots of the tree spread wide with micro rootlets, penetrating even into this bastion and into the white supremacist heart of the Enlightenment, and somehow suck nourishment out of us. This is why Black Lives Matter. Once we start seeing how this particular piece of the big story works, start seeing the overarching pattern, the entire structure is vulnerable to unraveling. Black lives matter to you because that is your key to humbly and compassionately begin the inquiry into who you are and what story you really want to tell. The truth we may not want to hear is that this Unitarian Universalist religion of ours is based on as many myths and falsehoods as any other. We say in our fourth principle that we seek the truth.
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
I think we can handle the truth. Truth is about looking for what is real. And reality, in the words of Brooke Gladstone, is more slippery than a pocket full of pudding. Most of what we take to be real and true is made up. Nearly all of what we believe to be true is a tissue of fiction. The science fiction writer Philip K. Dick defined reality as that which, when you stop believing in it, doesn't go away. Until very recently, I thought it important to figure out what exactly is real, what's rock bottom reality. I believe that stripping away a belief, that stripping away beliefs, would be a good thing to do. This thinking, I now realize, was very naive. Can everybody read that? It says, I want you to put me in touch with reality, but be ready to break the connection fast. No matter how hard we may try, we cannot stop ourselves from believing in made-up, imagined things. They feel more solid than the ground beneath our feet, whose nature, by the way, is equally equivocal. The simple act of giving a name to our made-up thing confers on them this texture of reality. Beliefs are changelings. They have the feel of the real. The rate of change in the world is at such a pace that prediction is difficult, if not impossible. The path of life is an unknowable mystery. We're told on a daily basis that the world is in crisis. The media yells at us every day, crisis, 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 one after another. And most of it appears to be our fault. I don't mean the little we here. I mean the big we, humanity, the fiction we of humanity. But a crisis, what is a crisis? It's a temporary thing. It's something you get through, you get over it, you manage it. This is not crisis we are in. We are in a tipping point. We are in the midst of a profound mutation in our very relationship to the world. The old stories do not fit this brave new world. The best we can do is to snuggle down into the now and let go of as many of those old, worn-out bedtime stories that no longer mean much. Tell some new stories. We are humans. We are storytelling animals. In a way, probably all living beings are storytellers. Trees have their stories to tell. We are the stories, and we are the stories we tell, and it matters what stories you tell your stories with. I am not on anything. I'm just a clumsy old man. Disvestibulation hits. Kurt Vonnegut wrote, "We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be." The stories at hand are so convincingly real and urgent. They wheedle away all the awareness that they are but small chapters in a much larger book. Here's a story. This is the story of a little boy. I will read the part of the little boy, but in the voice of the man he became. Little boy. I learned at a very young age the worship paid to being smart, knowing lots of stuff. A time earlier than I remember, or I didn't bother to remember because it held no importance to me. It's one of those do-as-you're-told tasks, the ignoring of which was to walk down a thorny path, a narrow trail through a stand of the attacking cholla cactus. Does everybody know the cholla cactus? It's also called jumping cactus. It has little segments and barbed spines, and you just walk by and it seems to jump and it sticks into your skin and you have to pull it out with pliers. You got that? And it hurts. The tests. We worship the tests. I was strictly taught to obediently kiss such icons. I became really good at taking tests. An excellent mimicry, a stand-in for being smart. At least in the Byzantine Orthodox Church practice, there is at least a substance to receive the kiss. So the boy became really good at pretending to be smart. He learned to excel at taking tests. When he did not know something, he learned to make himself silent and invisible and to look smart. The shame of not knowing, it would twist his gut and jab cholla reminders if anyone discovered there was something he did not know. There was also high expectation that he know intuitively what kinds of things he should know. A complex, elusive web of references and inferences. What the boy also, and more importantly, learned very tacitly and sometimes painfully, is that the really important stuff you are not allowed to know that you know. You are not supposed to let on that you know it. Knowing that is where the big pain lives. Google has saved me. I no longer feel the need to be smart in that test-taking kind of way. Google is smart for me. Thank you, Google, for your service. Irony aside, being relieved of the pressure to need to be smart, maybe now I can delegate the being smart to some nebulous brain. You notice how Google has no where? And letting go of the burden of needing to be smart, I may belatedly learn to think. That may be the same as learning how to see. The poet, whose poem Karen so beautifully read earlier, Rainer Maria Rilke, studied under the master sculptor Auguste Rodin to learn how to see. And there it creeps in. I must, in the sneakiest little ways, let that voice in. Rainer Maria Rilke and Auguste Rodin, the voice of reason, culture, knowledge, authority. His is a very white European voice larded with subtle codes. So Google now has a larger signature. Google, the face-like thing I see on my screen, is attached to a much more marvelous creature that will do many things for us. This creature, it is indeed a kind of creature, can actually be better at being human than we are. What a brave new world that it is creatured thus. Well, call me Miranda, but the world has never seen such creatures. Symbiont is not quite the right word, but the process is the same. Bio is not able to distinguish self from techno. Google is willing and able to relieve us of the need to be smart, as well as so many more burdensome tasks involved with living. And what will this brave new world look like? And how many unintended consequences? It matters what stories we tell our stories with. That means that whatever story we are telling, and telling stories is our way of knowing, that little story, it could be as little as, I see a tree, or I hear a bird, is told from the terms of the big story, Mr. Meta-narrative. Mr. Meta-narrative tells you what you are allowed or not allowed to see and hear, and how you should feel about it. Can we see a gorilla? We're like one of those TV dramas where each season tells a big story, and on the way to that climax is an episode story that gives a little payoff, thus keeping you tuned in for the long trip. But it matters what the big story is, because our actions, prompted by all kinds of totally made-up BS, you know what BS is. I can't say it because this is church. I can't say bullshit in church. Made-up BS changes the real world, and voila, there is a new habitat for us to adapt to. The big question is to make up a new place for humans. Another story. I've spent some time in the great Australian desert, the Red Centre, and when I've been there and I've looked at this barren, seemingly barren land, and thinking about the people who inhabited this. 70,000 years or more, these people have been making their living in all kinds of different environments and constantly changing. And I'm thinking, how hard that must be, how they must have to struggle to eke out a living in this just brush and scattered lizards here and there. And then I read, in that setting, in that hard, difficult setting, they needed to spend only about 2 hours a day to get enough food to eat. So if you think of their life as a big pie, 1/12 slice of pie was all they needed to maintain themselves. Who's getting all those slices of my pie? I am trading big chunks of life for shiny things. Woo! Today, the pundits are worrying that humans may become irrelevant. We won't have to work. Oh my! As if working on Maggie's farm is the only thing that gives meaning to life. Whose story is that? And here's another story that popped into my head while I was thinking about this. Kind of scared the bejesus out of me a little bit. Once upon a time, good stories start that way, there lived sort of vaguely in the sky or in a sort of parallel universe called heaven that has its own set of basic laws of physics and everything. There lived in this non-place a god. The God of this story was believed to have made everything. He was in everything. He was everywhere and nowhere, and he knows everything. One day, who knows why, maybe just because he felt it was the thing to do, seemed like a good idea. It was a thought he had, so it had to be good. You can't even know your own motives, so how could you begin to guess at this God's? When an idea pops into his head, does he even really have a head? It can, ipso facto, only be a good idea, the best of ideas. He decided to die. Now, like the lonely hoarder who dies under an avalanche of his precious stuff, no one really noticed him for quite some time. They did not notice that God's body-like whatever was buried under a pile of stuff. Until a young storyteller named Frederick, he was known to have a sensitive nose for dead and decaying things, wandered by. He played coroner and pronounced God dead, and, as was his responsibility, published the information in the paper of record. But what if Frederick was wrong? What if God was not dead, but really just pupating? Yes, God's just going through her metamorphosis. He summons the spirit of humans, previously known as man, and says, I'm going to be gone for a while. I'm going to want you to handle things till I get back. We got fed a few good stories, and a rumor got spread. If not dead, certainly superfluous, unnecessary. Maybe the old gods never die, they just fade away. Humanity took his place. Man, the god of the Anthropocene. Some good things were accomplished, quite a few botched, and this man god is now on the verge of becoming superfluous with the new Google god on the ascendant. Man, trying to live up to his role of God, created Google. We carry Google everywhere we go, thinking we are staring into the face of God. But what if this profound mutation we are seeing in the world around within us is really the sign of God emerging from her chrysalis. How do we create stories that will please her, this God of emergence? What do we need to build these new stories? 2 essential ingredients: humility, a mindset about oneself that is open-minded, self-accurate, and not all about me. And then it enables one to embrace the world as it is, an antidote to the 2 big writer's blocks, ego and fear. And the second thing, imagination, which allows us to be susceptible to the unknown, to the mystery of possibility. One more story. We're almost done. A big story that we use to tell our stories. In this story, there is at least one thing that is real. We expect reality to be something solid, a table, a rock. That's part of the trick. Let's dig down deep into the fabric of the world, to the tiniest microparticles. Quantum physicists tell us that microparticles do not exist as separate entities. The quantum state of each particle cannot be described independently of other particles. The same is true of the mutual relationship of signs and words, and it is as true of people. Nothing exists but in relationship to other things. We can call it love. This attraction that calls everything into being, that weaves solidity out of no thing. Rumi recognized this when he wrote, "All the particles of the world are in love and looking for lovers." Roger Houston writes, "I don't know that the unmanifest intelligence that is prior to all existence is trying to draw us into taking part in some universal plan of ultimate enlightenment. I don't know if it's trying to do anything. It is surely nothing but love. And love loves whatever is, however it is." Rumi says, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Fall in love. Stay there.